Kira started to leave the hill, and then, out of curiosity, she looked toward where the drone had crashed. Nagar had ID'd and tagged the location during the shuttle's descent. There, a click and a half from the coast, near the center of the island, she saw a yellow box outlining a patch of ground next to... A formation of jagged, pillar-shaped rocks stabbed out of the ground at a steep sideways angle. In all the places Kira had visited on Adra, and there were many, she hadn't seen anything quite like it. Petra, select visual target. Analyze. Her system responded. An outline flashed around the formation, and then a long list of elements scrolled next to it. Kira's eyebrows rose. She wasn't a geologist like Alan, but she knew enough to realize how unusual it was to have so many elements clustered together. Thermal's up, she muttered. Her visor darkened, and the world around her became an impressionistic painting of blues, blacks, and, where the ground had absorbed the warmth of the sun, muted reds. As expected, the formation perfectly matched the ambient temperature. Hey, check this out, Kira. And she forwarded the readings to Alan. Less than a minute later. The hell? You sure your equipment is... Alan. Pretty sure. What do you think it is? Kira. Dunno. Might be a lava extrusion? Can you get a scan of it? Maybe pick up a few samples, dirt, rock, whatever's convenient? Alan. If you really want. It's a bit of a hike, though. Kira. I'll make it worth your while. Alan. I like the sound of that, babe. Kira. Hey now. Alan. She smirked and swapped out of the infrared as she started down the hill. Nagar, do you read? A crackle of static and then, what's up? I'm gonna be another half hour, so sorry. Damn it! Those rolls aren't gonna last more than... I know! There's something I have to investigate for Alan. What? Some rocks, farther inland. You gonna give up Yugo's cinnamon rolls for that? Sorry. You know how it is. Besides, haven't seen anything quite like this before. A moment of silence. Fine, but you better haul ass, you hear me? Roger that, haulin' ass, said Kira. She chuckled and quickened her pace. Where the uneven ground allowed, she jogged, and 10 minutes later she arrived at the tilted outcropping. It was bigger than she'd realized. The highest point was a full 7 meters overhead, and the base of the formation was over 20 meters across. Wider even than the shuttle was long. The broken cluster of columns, black and faceted, reminded her of basalt, but their surface had an oily sheen similar to that of coal or graphite. There was something about the appearance of the rocks that Kira found off-putting. They were too dark, too stark and sharp-edged, too different from the rest of the landscape, a ruined spire alone amid the granite wasteland. And though she knew it was her imagination, an uneasy air seemed to surround the outcropping, like a low vibration just strong enough to annoy. Were she a cat, Kira felt sure her hair would be standing on end. She frowned and scratched her forearms. It sure didn't look like there'd been a volcanic eruption in the area. Okay then, a meteor strike instead? But that didn't make sense either. No blast wall or crater. She walked around the base, scanning. Near the back, she spotted the remnants of the drone, a long strip of broken and melted components dashed against the ground. Hell of a lightning strike, Kira thought. The drone must have been going pretty fast to spread it out like that. She shifted in her suit, still feeling uneasy. Whatever the formation was, she decided she'd leave the mystery for Alan to figure out. It would give him something to do on the flight out of the system. She took a soil sample and then searched until she found a small piece of the black rock that had flaked off. She held it up to the sun. It had a distinct crystalline structure, a fish scale-like pattern that reminded her of woven carbon fiber. Impact crystals? Whatever it was unusual. She tucked the rock into a sample pouch and gave the formation one last look over. A silvery flash several meters off the ground caught her eye. Kira paused, studying it. A crack had split open one of the columns to reveal a jagged white seam within. She checked her overlays. The seam was too deep within the crack to get a good reading. The only thing the scanner could tell her for sure was that it wasn't radioactive. The comm crackled, and Nagar said, How you doing, Kira? Almost done. Okay, hurry up, would you? Yeah, Kira muttered to herself. She eyed the crack, trying to decide if it was worth the effort to climb up and examine. She nearly contacted Alan to ask, but then decided not to bother him. If she didn't find out what the seam was, she knew the question would annoy him until they hopefully returned to Adra, and he got a chance to examine it himself. Kira couldn't do that to him. She'd seen him stay up late far too many times, poring over blurred footage from a drone. Besides, the crack wasn't that hard to reach. If she started there and went over to that, then maybe... Kira smiled. The challenge appealed to her. The skin suit didn't have gecko pads installed, but it shouldn't matter, not for an easy climb like this. She walked to a slanted column that ended only a meter above her head. Sucking in a quick breath, she dipped her knees and jumped. The rough edge of the stone dug into her fingers as she caught hold of it. She swung a leg over the top of the column and then, with a grunt, pulled herself up. Kira stayed on all fours, clutching the uneven stone while she waited for her heart to slow. Then she carefully got to her feet atop the column. From there it was relatively easy. She jumped across to another angled column, which allowed her to scramble up several more, like climbing a giant staircase, aged and crumbling. The last meter was a bit tricky. Kira had to wedge her fingers between two pillars in order to support herself as she swung from one foothold to another. Fortunately, there was a broad ledge beneath the crack she was trying to reach, broad enough that she had room to stand and move about. She shook her hands to get the blood back into her fingers and walked over to the fissure, curious what she would find. Up close, the gleaming white seam looked metallic and ductile, as if it were a vein of pure silver, only it couldn't be. It wasn't tarnished. She targeted the seam with her overlays. Terbium. Kira barely recognized the name. One of the elements in the platinum group, she thought. She didn't bother looking it up, but she knew it was odd for a metal like that to appear in such a pure form. She leaned forward, peering deeper into the crack as she tried to get a better angle for the scanner. Bang! The sound was as loud as a gunshot. Kira jerked with surprise, and then her foot slipped, and she felt the stone shift underneath her as the whole ledge gave way. She was falling. An image flashed through her mind of her body lying broken on the ground. Kira yelped and flailed, trying to grab the column in front of her, but she missed, and darkness swallowed her. Thunder filled her ears, and lightning shot across her vision as her head bounced against the rocks. Pain shot through her arms and legs as she was pummeled from every direction. The ordeal seemed to last for minutes. Then she felt a sudden sense of weightlessness, and a second later, she slammed into a hard, jagged mound.